From New York City and across the country, this is ABC News Election Night 2018. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
And we are here at our election headquarters here in New York. And what you see there is the story in the House right now. That is the big story of the night. So far, Democrats have picked up 8 seats. A new one just came in. We're going to call it right now. Democrat Mike Sherril in the state of New Jersey has defeated Republican Jay Weber, your new congresswoman.
Yep, and listen, Jay was outraised 9-1 in a Republican district. So like I said before, she spent $7 million. Great story. You know, she's a combat veteran. She's a former federal prosecutor, and she worked this district really, George, almost from the time President Trump was elected.
Right. And we have another one coming in right now from the state of Virginia. Big one for the Democrats. Elaine Luria has defeated Scott Taylor in the state of Virginia, Virginia 2. This is one the Democrats, as we said earlier, Martha, had been counting on, had been hoping for.
They certainly have. And we just called 2 female veterans in a row. It shows the power of these women in these races. There are 10 Democratic women running who are veterans running this time around and just got 2 big ones.
Nate, are we seeing anything? Is any of this flipping you yet?
It is, yeah. No, we are seeing now a more equivocal set of districts where you are seeing some tough races called for Democrats. For example, Kansas 3 in the KC suburbs in Virginia. So we're seeing the numbers tick back up where we most likely will see the House Senate split.
So you're saying most likely right now?
They're up to about, I mean, there are calls dropping now very often. But yeah, if we look at this right now, right, we can see the Senate House odds. You see Democrats are back up now to a 7 in 9 chance.
Almost where they began the night.
So it's really kind of come full circle, yeah. In the Senate, Democratic odds took a plunge and never recovered. They were low to begin with. In the House, though, you have seen now, as races are actually called, or projected, as we say, you've seen now it looks more like we might have thought when the evening began.
And we have another one coming in right now. It comes from the state of New York, where Max Rose has defeated the incumbent Congressman Dan Donovan, seeking a 3rd term. Staten Island. John Carl, this was a tougher one for the Democrats.
This was a tougher one. So what we're starting to see, George, is the Democrats winning every race where they were expected to win, and now finally picking up some of those that were more truly toss-up. The one you just called in Virginia, Virginia 2, and this in Staten Island.
In fact, yeah, this was leaning Republican, yes. And our analysis is coming in. David.
Yep. Surprise. Dan Donovan, former prosecutor, former DA, won a good primary. It does a good job out there. This one's a surprise. Republicans are surprised to lose Dan Donovan.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, they had defeated Dan Donovan, had defeated the Michael Grimm, who had a strong endorsement from Donald Trump.
Yep.
They thought he was the strongest candidate. Democrats have taken it. David Muir, let's take a step back and look at what the exit polls are telling us about the House.
Because what we're seeing now is sort of bearing out on what we're seeing in the exit polls. When you're asked, who do you want to control the House? These are our exit polls tonight, preliminary results. Control the House. 53% of voters who turned out today, look at this, want the Democratic Party to control the House, perhaps as a check on President Trump, because Republicans obviously control everything right now. 43% want it to stick with the Republican Party. When you break it down, men and women heading out to the polls today, 48% of men want the Democrats to control the House. 57% of women, you can see the gap right there. And you were talking about this earlier. As the economy goes, sometimes so goes the House, George, as you pointed out. People do believe the economy is good shape. 67% say excellent or good shape. But look at this. When you break it down, have you felt the effects of this improving economy? Far right of your screen there, 49%, about half of the voters turning out today say they feel exactly the same as they did a couple of years ago.
You know, let me bring this to Matthew Dowd. We saw that 10 points in the generic in our exit poll. Normally, you would think the 10 points would lead to an easy Democratic win, but you've seen a lot of changes in our politics. We become more divided, more polarized, and the effects of gerrymandering.
Well, it's a combination of many things, and to harken back to what I said earlier, this is another battle between geography and demography. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million votes, and she lost the Electoral College. Democrats, from our initial exit polling, have a 10-point generic advantage and are not sweeping away with this because they're running against red geography.
Mary Bruce, Nancy Pelosi came into the night saying she was 100% confident that the Democrats would take control. I think she is, like those in the White House, also now feeling a little bit better than she was at the beginning about what was happening about an hour ago.
Yeah, I think Democrats are probably breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief as they see some of these new seats turning their way. And look, Nancy Pelosi, it was a bit of a bold move to come out and say 100% she was certain, but it does seem that the night at least is trending in that direction.
But I also think it's a 100% certain that this is going to be a pretty narrow win if they win. And maybe the thing that's not 100% certain is whether or not Nancy Pelosi will be the Speaker of the House. If this is a very narrow win, very narrow takeover for the Democrats, it's a much harder road for her.
Mary Bruce, we've already seen it. It's a little early tonight to get to that, but we'll come back to this whole idea. You have seen several of these Democrats, including some who've won, like Conor Lamb, say they're not going to support Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, George, 44 Democratic candidates have said that they are not certain about her leading their party. You have 4 of those who have come out and said they are hard-nosed against Nancy Pelosi. So whether or not she is the next Speaker of the House, if, and that is a big if, Democrats take the House, will depend on the margin of victory for Democrats and the makeup of the caucus.
Another result is coming in right now, comes from the state of Arizona. It's the governor's race in the state of Arizona, where Governor Doug Ducey has defeated David Garcia, professor of education. He is seeking a second term. He has gotten it. Meghan McCain, your state.
I love him. I'm so excited. If tonight we're obviously looking at the senatorial race. He's a very popular governor. He was expected to be up by at least 10 points. If Martha McSally ends up winning, I think it will be in no small part to this man's popularity in Arizona, and I'm just thrilled, and it's really expected.
Yeah, he kind of walks the balance beam on President Trump.
He's magically a candidate that somehow gets Trump's endorsement and my mother's, so, figure that one out. And, he's really good for Arizona in a lot of different ways.
I see you shaking.
Yeah, no, listen, Doug Ducey, incredibly talented candidate and has been a really good governor. And the thing about what Meghan said is absolutely true. We're not ready to call anything yet, but if Martha McSally wins, she has better got a big thank you note to Doug Ducey. Because Doug Ducey is going to carry her over the finish line.
He will have dragged her over the finish line.
Let's go next door to the state of Utah, where we're seeing we're going to take a look at the Senate race there, where Mitt Romney is projected to win the Senate race in the state of Utah. Of course, he's the former governor of Massachusetts, who ran the Winter Olympics in Utah. Of course, former presidential candidate as well. Abby Huntsman, that's your state.
We're going to have Mitt Romney in our lives forever, aren't we? So surprisingly, he did not swim right through the primaries. He actually had a runoff, and a lot of people were surprised by that. I've talked to people. I was just in Utah actually last weekend, and his goal is to go in with a lot of the moderate Republicans leaving or retiring. He's hoping to be that adult in the room, sort of that voice to bring the party back. How successful he'll be, who knows? I don't have a whole lot of faith in it today, but that's what he's planning.
Well, that's what he wants to do, Mary Bruce. Let me bring this to you right now, because we said Bob Corker, who's been a frequent Trump critic, has now left the Senate. Jeff Flake also retired from the state of Arizona. Mitt Romney, during the presidential campaign, gave that scathing attack on Donald Trump, was considered for Secretary of State, didn't get it, has somewhat moderated his tone.
Yeah, Mitt Romney once called the president terribly unfit for office. And now a lot of people on the Hill are looking to Mitt Romney, wondering whether he can fill those shoes, whether he can be that Republican who's going to stand up to the president on so many issues like Corker and Flake have done. But Romney has kind of muted some of his criticism of the president. He said that he will support the president where they agree. He will speak out against him where they do not. So it will be interesting to see how much of a counterweight he is to Trump.
As you were talking, another result is coming in from the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania 6, Chester County, Chrissy Houlihan will win in the state of Pennsylvania, defeated Greg McCauley. You see it right there. So another pickup there for the Democrats as they move on towards the 23 they will need to take control. They have 11 right now. Let's go back to Eva Pilgrim, just outside of Philadelphia in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Democrats encouraged as more of these numbers come in.
They are definitely encouraged, and you can hear here in this room, they keep cheering every time one of the Democrats is announced. Right now on the stage, Mary Gay Scanlon is giving her a speech talking about this hard-fought battle. This was, her race at least, was one that we were predicting the Democrats would win. And the Democrats should pick up some of the seats here in Pennsylvania because of that redistricting. The really interesting thing that we're seeing play out here in Pennsylvania is the number of women. There were no congresswomen representing the state of Pennsylvania prior to this, and there's the potential for 4 women to go to Congress from the state of Pennsylvania. And that will be really interesting to watch as it plays out. How many seats will the Democrats be able to pick up here in Pennsylvania? That is the question. But chipping away at that 23 total that they need, George.
Okay, Eva Pilgrim, thanks very much. Cokie Roberts are saying, actually, before I call on you, we do have another projection. It's from the state of Texas. And in the Senate race in the state of Texas, where we say now that Ted Cruz will win. He has defeated Congressman Beto O'Rourke in the state of Texas. He's the projected winner right now. Matthew Dowd, your state, Ted Cruz in the red state. It's a close win, but it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win. And, you know, as we talked earlier in the evening, Beto lit the fire of a lot of people, but this is still a very red state. It's moving, the growth of the Latino population, it's moving, and Beto made a game run. It probably will lose in single digits when the end of the night is in, which is the first time a Democrat has got that close in 25 years. But it's still a red state.
So what happens to someone like Beto O'Rourke, who, as you say, lit the party on fire, raised so much money, raised a lot of hopes, doesn't get there, doesn't have a congressional seat anymore? Where does he go?
He says he's going back to El Paso and play with his kids and go back to his life. That's what he says. So, I mean, he's a guy that's been authentic in all of this. I think he's going to take a lot of time off. He's been traveling for 2 years straight, going to all 254 counties. He probably needs a nap or at least a week of rest.
That's a start
on this. But he made a game run for it in a red state.
David Muir, what are you seeing in Texas?
Well, you're looking at the breakdown of the voters. You know, these are some interesting numbers coming in. Even if Beto O'Rourke lost, he probably can be pretty proud of some of the voters he did get to come out to the polls. They set some records here for a midterm. 24% of the voters in Texas were Hispanic or Latino, 59% white. The issues in Texas driving this race, 38% said health care. That's not as far ahead as we've seen in some of the other states. 32% said immigration. That was, as you know, a big issue for Ted Cruz, pointing to the border wall, saying we must support this president. Beto O'Rourke saying we need more sensible immigration reform. 20%, 21% there say the economy. And when you break this down, was Donald Trump a factor in your vote in Texas? Take a look at this. 22% said they supported, 28% said they opposed, but nearly half of the voters in Texas say Donald Trump was not a factor. Ted Cruz pulling it out.
Ted Cruz pulls it out in Texas.
Well, you're going to Pennsylvania. But first of all, you have a Pennsylvania call, right?
Do we have the chime here on this one?
Let's hope so.
Yeah, Pennsylvania 7. Susan Wild, thank you. I did have the call, but I didn't hear the chime, so I wasn't sure I could call. But we do have another winner there for the Democrat, John Carl.
And I want to say this is a significant win. This is the most significant win so far in Pennsylvania because this was a true battleground district. This was a district that Hillary Clinton won, but she won by only 1%. And it's a big pickup in Pennsylvania for the Democrats.
Cokie Roberts, we are seeing Pennsylvania come home the way they wanted it
now,
to.
the Republicans were saying that they expected Pennsylvania to be a bloodbath for them. That's the term they used. And it looks like it is. But one of the things that is true is that the Democrats worked very hard to recruit these candidates, particularly these women veterans.
We've got another one. This is a different one. This is in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a switch the other way. Guy Reschenthaler in the 14th district has defeated Bibiana Barrio there in the state of Pennsylvania. And this is an interesting one. Mary Bruce, this was an open seat. Connor Lamb had won the special election, but then he moved next door to the 17th district, so this was an open one. Republicans get to keep it.
Yeah, Connor Lamb switching districts in the middle, which gets to the big conversation we've been having about redistricting here in the state. So interesting that despite the fact that most of the redrawing there favored Democrats in this one seat, obviously helped the Republicans.
And let me just add, another veteran.
One more veteran right there.
Veteran,
we're going to take a quick break.
It's ABC News Live. We're upstairs in the skybox. I'm Dan Harris alongside my friend ABC's Devin Dwyer. You've been watching this midterm race and the White House closely for quite some time now. I got to go back to Texas because liberal hearts are breaking all over the country right now. Beto O'Rourke became something of a folk hero, enormous amount of money pouring in. What about him lit the left on fire?
Yeah, we were just down in Texas a few weeks ago in Houston, and I'm telling you, I've never seen this much energy behind a Democrat since the early days of Barack Obama. Beto O'Rourke's youth, his rhetoric was soaring. It really grabbed people. He was appealing to parts of the state that had never seen their senator. He did a road trip to every single county in Texas, places Ted Cruz hadn't been in years. But it really came down to the exit polls that we're just seeing right now. It really came down to Beto O'Rourke's policies. He ran as a liberal Democrat in Texas, not as a Democrat, but as a liberal Democrat. And one point of comparison would be to look at Phil Bredesen in Tennessee, also a Democrat running there. He lost his race today. He was running to the middle. He was embracing Kavanaugh. He was embracing Trump at every turn. He lost. Beto O'Rourke lost as well. But O'Rourke was really going to the left. He energized the left. Turnout among the left in Texas is at record levels, but he just couldn't get it across the line.
Stand by. I want to talk about Texas some more, but we do have a projection we can make in North Dakota and the Senate race there that this will be another seat that the Democrats are forfeiting. ABC News is projecting that Kevin Cramer will beat the incumbent Democrat Heidi Heitkamp, who we knew going into tonight was vulnerable, but this is quite a margin of victory. I know there's still more votes to be counted, but quite a margin of victory here.
Yeah, this is a state that President Trump has visited a number of times. It's been a deep red state. Heidi Heitkamp had been one of the most moderate Democrats in the United States Senate. So we sort of saw this coming. And the tipping point, as we've been talking about all night, was Kavanaugh. And we've actually seen that in a number of races tonight. The Kavanaugh effect really helped tip the scale. But Heidi Heitkamp, one of those moderates that went down. In fact, Dan, you and I were just talking about the president's scorecard tonight. He endorsed 61 candidates this entire campaign. So far, he's up tonight, 12 wins for him, 4 losses for him among those 61 that he's endorsed. So doing well, but a long way to go.
Well, let me just, this is going to be somewhat of a non sequitur from Trump, but it has to do with North Dakota, because we are seeing, we only have a few seconds here, that Native Americans are playing an important role this year. We're going to see, we've seen at least one Native American victory tonight, and in North Dakota there were claims that there were voter suppression of Native Americans who put Heitkamp over the top last time she won.
That's right, and it will be interesting to see how close in the exit poll numbers Native Americans were to supporting her and how many turned out. It was a huge issue there in voting rights.
Devin, thank you very much.
Devin.
Really appreciate it. We're going to go back downstairs to George and the rest of the team. A reminder, every time they take a commercial break, we're going to pick up with the coverage, non-stop coverage here of these historic elections.